This is The Last Word.
Right, it's Tuesday, and when it's Tuesday night, what will come after the news is The Last Word, where we have conversations on everything that's important in the prevailing week and also looking ahead into what's important and making national conversations around the country. We know in the last 1 week, what has been a big conversation since the 14th of what month are we in April, is the issue of fuel prices. Now, international fuel prices spiking and taking, the deep and whatever has happened. And then in the country, we saw what the announcement was from the government. On the first day, reduction of VAT to 13%. On the second day, reduction of VAT to 8%. Now, tonight we are asking, has that reduction of VAT to 8% had any impact or offered any relief to Kenyans? Has that reduction of VAT from 16% to 8% offered any relief to Kenyans? Good evening and welcome. My name is Eric Latif. I'm here with my usual co-hosts, Zaha Indimuli and James Smart.
Yes, of course it has impact. There's a reduction of 9 shillings.
Yeah.
It sounds like an obvious question. I think the
reduction of 9 shillings?
I mean, there's 8% from 16% to 8%. Resulted into a difference of about 9 shillings or 10 shillings. Yeah. It's something. I mean, it's not nothing. But then cumulatively, if you say we added 40 shillings so that we can take 9 shillings away, then it's a bit of a game. But I think the biggest question to answer, I think the urgent question to answer is the things we do with the taxes that we put on the fuel across the board. I think the Deputy President then and candidate William Ruto, when he was running for office, he quite actually got it and say, part of the problem with our fuel is the fuel levy and the 15 taxes, he said, that we put on the on this fuel product. And I'm not sure that then he's since shifted and has said that, okay, look, we are a middle income country. And as such, we need those taxes to make sure that we can be able to pay for our roads and road maintenance and everything else in between. So it almost appears to me that it's impossible for the government or a policy that is coherent that is able to take away either taxes or find another way on how to go around the fuel question. It appears it's impossible. Every administration, we've covered President Uhuru Kenyatta, former president now, going through the same problems and the same questions. And everyone answered, oh, look, it's not my problem. The problems come from, I don't know, that time it was the Ukraine war, now it is the Iran war. Who knows in 5 years what we would be quoting. But here we are.
I think for me, it's striking a balance. And it's good we have also students over here in this discussion and strategies and key people and stakeholders within the space. I think for me, I want to know, is it a policy failure, is it a market failure, or is it a global inevitability? Because I've had the Strait of Hormuz longer than I've had from other countries, specifically in Kenya. And then the discussions around the comparisons between our prices and the rest of our neighbors. And it's like coherently, if we look back, a couple of months ago, was Kenya still at the same price range? Like, are we talking about a fuel crisis that is premeditated? Are we talking about a hoarding that is also premeditated? Like, what exactly are we communicating to Kenyans in terms of what they're meeting at the tank? And the industry in itself has such technical positionings and words that I think common mwananchi is not able to also decipher who exactly bears this responsibility of energy hikes, of fuel hikes, trickling down to the normal person in every day to day. I mean, I think for me to just get into the economics of what this oil crisis is and eventually get to the answer of why the fluctuations, who controls the fluctuations, who controls and bears the shocks that the economy tends to get by the time there's a crisis. The Strait of Hormuz and the Iranian war has been continuing for a long time. Is it also a concurrent situation where Kenya has to wait until a crisis erupts for us to start putting measures in? Like, where is the strategic policy put ahead to caution Kenyans and to cushion the economy when these hikes happen? Because they're inevitable. And then to what percentage are we blaming the Strait of Hormuz war? And to what percentage are we also taking responsibility within the sector in the country? So who bears the brunt? Because at the end, what I'm seeing from transportation to the costs that are coming up, it's Kenyans that keep having to pay for this ever-fluctuating burden that is never prepared for.
So we have various people in the room. We have Martin Shomba, who's been on the last thought before. He's a petroleum logistics expert. We have an economist, Dennis Omondi, and we have, students of petroleum engineering. We have members of community mobilizers who are here with us in the room. So let's all ask you the question. You know the drill. You have the board, you can vote, and let's sample your views. Do you think this reduction of VAT to 8% has offered relief to Kenyans? Do you think the reduction of VAT on petroleum products to 8%
Red being no.
has actually offered relief?
Just for clarity, red being
Red
no.
means no.
And green means yes.
Green means yes, it has offered relief.
It has offered some relief.
Okay.
It has offered absolutely no relief.
Red means no.
Majority, no.
Wow. So there are only 2 or 3. There are only three.
Yes.
Yeses.
Some relief.
Yes. Who feel
Yes.
that there is relief?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's absolute relief.
It's maybe it's a good place to start with
Yes.
with the people who are relieved, so that you can tell us what the relief is.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself, your name, what you do, and the relief that apparently you have.
Okay, I'm Mary Joy Wendo Kitetu, a third-year student doing aerospace engineering
Wow.
from Kenyatta University. While I am not of the opinion that it has offered absolute relief, I am of the opinion that it has offered some relief. That is, while we're not focusing on the long-term effect of the 8% tax reduction, to some point the reduction, the halving of the tax and of the VAT has offered some bit relief while we look at the short-term goal effect of it. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
She chose to be technical.
There's a gentleman ahead
Yes.
in front here who also said yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Quinn Sokoth, and I am a first-year law student at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Karen campus. So, well, as she said, look at to what extent you want to blame the war on the rise. But again, as a law student, there's some things you'll always tackle. We're talking about how wars will affect. International laws will always affect international straits. So here, the Strait of Hormuz, the blockage of such a main state will always affect the landing price. We're talking about the price to transport oil from the international borders to Mombasa. Now, if you look at the story keenly, to some extent, there is the innocence of the government. Again, it's not upon the government to be blamed for the war ongoing in Iran and Israel. It's not upon the government to be blamed for the Strait of Hormuz. And again, it's not the point of the government, upon the government to be blamed for the increasing landing price. Now, where there's increasing landing price, obviously the increase in tax to facilitate the increased price. Now, for that, there'll always be an increase in oil prices. Now, take it this way. So, given that to this point, we cannot blame the government for the increase. Now, is it not fair enough that they increased VAT, they lowered the VAT to ease the burdens on Kenyans? That's my view.
You have a great career as a lawyer. To say. Yes. Thank you for your contribution. Give the gentleman on the right. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Tom Juma. I'm a mechanical engineer. I can say that the VAT reduction has offered relief because the projected amount that we could have been incurring in fuel, the 9 shillings reduction, especially a relief. I would like to compare Kenyan's context and Ethiopian context because they have almost similar economy. Because if we look at the currency of Ethiopia and Kenya, they are almost equal. And both Ethiopia and Kenya, they buy fuel from the same market. But if you look at the fuel price in Ethiopia, it's lower than that of Kenya. The main reason is the Ethiopian government focuses on subsidizing fuel, the purchases of fuel. But here is this is what was trending online, that why is Ethiopia down compared to Kenya, yet Kenya and Ethiopia are purchasing from the same market. You see, Ethiopia subsidizes the cost, but then there is rationing factor to control the amount that the users of petroleum, the users of fuel use in that country. So to me, since this is a global problem, the VAT reduction is good, has offered relief, and if we have to go the way of subsidizing like Ethiopian does, then it means we will have fuel rationing in the country, which might also affect the other side. So it's a double coin for both the countries. Thank you.
Okay. Very well put arguments here. And I think I agree with what you said, James, that yes, there is some level of relief. The always question is there more that could be done? And I think just again coming back into what Zaha you're asking. If you look at the global oil prices, and then you add that into freight, into insurance, into transportation oil, and bring it all the way to Mombasa, the landing costs of fuel at Mombasa versus the cost of fuel at the pump, there's a huge variation. And the variance there is because of government action.
Yeah.
So everything else up to the landing in Mombasa is, you can say, this is now international oil trade.
Things we can't control.
Things that we can't control.
Yep.
There's an index called the Platts index that is the global index for pricing of fuel. And we say, Platts is at this level at this day on this date. So you're either buying at Platts plus 0.1 or Platts minus 0.1, whatever. Right? It's never minus, but it's Platts plus something. Then you add, cost of freight, cost of insurance, cost of everything. By the time it lands in Mombasa, this is the price. What are all these other things that happen from Mombasa, from Kipevu Oil Terminal to your pump? Start in Nairobi, and then you go across the country, and the farther you go, the more expensive it gets. All those other things are the ones that I think Deputy President in the opposition, William Ruto, in 2022 was arguing against and saying there are too many taxes that are in there. And those in government then were saying, look, these are the taxes that we depend on to run the economy. You invert it. Those who are now in the opposition, who are in government, are saying, no, these taxes can be affected. And those who are in the opposition who are now in government, including those who were in government in the opposition then, catch my drift, are now saying we can't touch it. I think that's a conversation that we, at some point you ought to have on, do we need to have all these fuel taxes and levies? And before we even come to the others like Shomba and the others who have the mic, can we just mention in the current fuel prices, what landed in Mombasa versus what we are now paying at the pump? Now, how much is petrol super at the pump in Nairobi today? 206. Okay, it was 206 before the reduction.
Yeah.
Senior?
Should be one, yes.
It came to 190 what?
197.
Okay. That mafuta, a liter of it landed in Mombasa at 107 shillings and 23 cents. That is the price of landed fuel in Mombasa. There are several things that we now put. The first thing that we do is storage and distribution costs, okay? The storage and distribution costs include pipeline transport from Mombasa to Nairobi, 2 shillings and 85 cents. Then we add pipeline losses at 0.07 shillings. You add depot losses at 83 cents. You add delivery within 40 kilometers of Nairobi, that's delivery to retail stations, 1 shilling and 18 cents. All that cumulatively is 4 shillings and 93 cents. Okay? To 107.23, we have engineering students here. Math is quick chaps, isn't it? Zimefika ngapi sasa? 107 plus 493. Then, oil marketing companies and their margin, the
Markup.
decided markup.
Yeah.
The wholesale markup is 6 shillings and 14 cents. Retail markup is 11 shillings and 25 cents. And retail here is retail investment plus operating margin. And Shomba will explain to us who are those players. Wholesalers, retailers, right? That comes to 17 shillings and 39 cents. So 17.39 plus 4.93, add that into mafuta. So far, it does sound kama ni mbaya sana mafuta ikifika kwa petroli, si ndio? Now, we put in what we call taxes and levies. Let's start. Excise duty, 21 shillings and 95 cents. Road maintenance levy, 25 shillings. We have petroleum development levy, 5 shillings and 40 cents. What's that? Shomba will tell us. Hiyo ni ile wanaita stabilization. Petroleum regulatory levy, 75 cents. Railway development levy, 2 shillings and 5 cents. We have merchant shipping levy, 0.03. You have import declaration fee, 2 shillings and 56 cents. Then you have VAT, now at 8%. When it was 16%, it was 24 bob. At 8% now is what? Higher. So total taxes and levies comes to 82 shillings minus 8 shillings. 74 shillings. Mafuta ilifika Mombasa at 107 shillings. Taxes alone, 70 bob, plus all the others. Now, do this make absolute sense?
The math.
For the government?
Are we okay with it? Are you asking
Yeah.
if you're okay with it?
Yeah, are we okay with
Yeah. Does it sit right with us?
it? Is it okay for us to run the government? I mean, because we need that for development. We're a middle income country.
Yeah.
Let's hear from the gentleman here with the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Mushiri. I'm a youth leader in Kiambu County. And as you have mentioned, Eric, it's a statement of fact that about 40 to 50% of the total price at the pump goes to taxes and levies. And I heard our colleagues here say that the geopolitical issues have a cause in what we are experiencing today in terms of fuel prices in Kenya. And that is not correct. We must agree, first of all, that the issue of taxation and expenditure is something that we can control as a country. And that is where this thing lie. It is about taxation, higher taxes. And we must be intellectually honest to the Kenyan people. I've heard the government and the government operatives invoking countries like United States of America and other advanced economies when they want to defend higher taxes. They are now going back to comparing Kenya in terms of service delivery and development. They want to compare Kenya to our neighboring countries in East Africa. Let me chip to into the fuel prices, because the same selective logic pattern applies even in fuel prices. You hear them saying that the global prices, the pump prices in Kenya are not high because such prices are also in the United States and other advanced economies. But then you ask yourself, because now we are defending prices in those countries and trying to justify that we are not overcharging Kenyans, why then, when we come to issues of taxation and when we come to issues of now service delivery and development, we are now comparing ourselves to other neighboring countries where the economy of our country and those countries cannot be compared to the advanced economies? It is a lie to Kenyan people. And as you mentioned, the 5 shillings that Kenyans pay per liter of petrol or diesel for the petroleum development levy should actually be used to stabilize and to cushion Kenyans against higher prices. So it is an issue of taxation. Reduce the taxes, do away with some levies, take the roads maintenance levy to where it was during President Uhuru Kenyatta, because it was at 18 shillings. 7 shillings was added to that roads maintenance levy. Yeah.
Asante. Who else has the mic?
So I think it's rightly put that we have 2 factors, actually 3 factors that determine oil pricing.
Please start with your name.
Hello.
Yes. And what end of the consumption, of the fuel consumption line
Are you
sitting?
Consumer,
Or produce.
For produce part of the
Thank
production.
you, thank you. It's my first time on TV. I'm a bit nervous.
Usijali. Karibu sana.
Yeah, my name is
You
Arthur.
shall enjoy it.
Thank you. My name is Arthur Kisaka. I'm a petroleum engineer and also the communications chair of Society of Petroleum Engineers Kenya section. So it's rightly put that there are three factors that determine the oil price in Kenya: the landing cost, the margin of the retailer, and number three, we have the taxes. We do not have much influence over the landing cost because we are a net importer of oil. We take the price that is dictated to us. But on the taxes, we do have a lot of influence. This is the single lever that we can pull and push whenever we need to cushion the consumer. However, I will take you back to the road maintenance levy that he has mentioned. One of the reasons that was cited by the government that the road maintenance levy was moved from 18 shillings to 25 shillings was because there's a tax that's there's a loan that's supposed to be repaid using that money. The government has securitized these levies, and that is why they cannot reduce these levies. It's because they have sold our nation. They have sold our energy security. And therefore, when it comes to time of crisis, such as we are now, we are in a time of crisis. They cannot cushion us because this government is not for us. It is a government that is serving someone else. Thank you.
Asante, Engineer Arthur.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Seth Mnene, a legal practitioner in the energy space. Let me start first by saying that the reduction is a big move. It has made a whole executive arm to come out and say, hey, look here, we have reduced the petrol prices. Now, this is the other side of the equation. Has the breakdown of the oil prices per litre have been made out clearly? Almost half of the whole amount goes to the taxes. Now, my concern is on the petroleum development levy. According to the reports from the government, about 11.6 billion was used to stabilize the oil prices.
Six.
Yeah.
So 6.8 billion.
Yeah. Thanks for the correction. So, in other words, you're telling Kenyans we are reducing this amount, but what money are you using to stabilize to reduce the oil prices? It's the money that they give you. So I'd say it's a pyrrhic queen for the Kenyans. There's nothing big there. It's our money that is being used in a facade way to appear that something is going down here. And in actual sense, there's nothing that is being reduced.
I mean, whose money would you like to be used to subsidize?
There are other effective measures that the government can use.
Such as?
I'd say that the real problem is the inefficiencies in the system we have. The regulatory authority is not working well. The recent scandal involving the three senior officials, Mr. Sang, Mohammed, and Daniel. If such things can happen in a system, then there are other things maybe we don't know that if they were sorted out, such things could not have happened. I don't want to attribute the sole crisis to the issues happening in the Strait of Hormuz. Yes.
Pass the microphone to the front, please. Yes. Give us some expert advice. We are in the dark.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Martin Chomba, and thank you for putting me among students. I also need to say that I'm a student, but in social science, development studies. There are quite a bit of few things that I would wish to say about petroleum in Kenya. One, petroleum industry has been seen as an elitist industry, in that the flow of information, people understanding what happens within the petroleum industry is akin to knowing what happens in the defense ministry. Such that you have all manner of stories about the industry and very few facts about it. But thank God that today we have the petroleum engineers. At least I'm in a place where I'm hearing some real facts. So first, the first thing that we need to appreciate is that the government of Kenya does not own even 1 liter of oil in this country. all they do is to regulate and control logistics. Movement of petroleum from point A to point B. Actually, if you are even to go through the English definition of what VAT is, we would not be charging VAT on fuel because we don't add any value in that fuel. Okay? I think we are so used to this VAT thing that we forgot the actual meaning of VAT. It means that you have done something that has added value to that product, so that's why you are charging more. And we don't add no value. Actually, I tell people that we don't have a petroleum industry. We have a petroleum logistics industry. There is a world of a difference. Number two, the oil that we control in this country or we receive in this country is in the hands of the private sector. The private sector, it doesn't matter what you guys say, are answerable to their shareholders. The CEO of the companies that control petroleum in this country are not answerable to the government when it comes to P&L. Yep. They are answerable to the private sector, to their shareholders. And so there has to be an intricate balancing act between what the government is asking and what that portends to the shareholders. And that's why more often than not, I try to run away from this facade that people talk about controls. Why? Because I'm not an economist, I'm in development studies, but I am of the opinion that markets worldwide, they react faster to realities before they react to arrangements.
Yeah.
Let me explain that. Today, as we speak, about 33 or 40 minutes ago, President Trump has indicated that by the lapse of the truce tonight, they might start bombing again. The markets are starting to react. So our arrangement, whether G2G or OTAs or whatever, before they start now reacting to that, the markets out there are already reacting. When the CEOs see the markets reacting out there, they react to that. They organize themselves around the realities, not the arrangements. And so that's another complexity that we have. You asked the question whether the 8 shillings offered a relief. I think there was a problem also of the English phrasing of that statement. It ought to have been, in my opinion, was there a relief to what would have been, not what was, because what was, we didn't even have the increase, right? So the 8% would have offered relief if it was coming in the backdrop of the prices that we had then. But it is what would have. And so if the question is what would have, it has offered, of course, the 8% relief. But in terms of relieving Kenyans to an extent where the economies are not affected, then we are not there. The government is caught in a catch-22 situation. The levies and the taxes that we have, as my junior here mentioned, they are securitized already. You know that the VAT goes a long way into the consolidated funds to pay the teachers, to pay the doctors, to pay the police and all that. And so when we are talking about taking a haircut by the government or shedding off some more taxes or releasing those taxes to Kenya, the question that we must ask ourselves is, what will we use to pay these people? Because the government of Kenya does not get money from anywhere else other than the taxes. And so if we release these taxes, then we must be able to also take hit on this other place. And this is why I've been arguing that the government has to brace itself and look at the programs that it can organize and hold for a minute. Why am I saying this? If the increase in the prices that we are having right now will lead to businesses closing down, the cost of starting a business, again, is like a cost of restarting a well. You know, they don't close the oil wells because the restarting a well is akin to redigging that well. It's the same thing about business. I would rather the government has ease of organizing its finances and taxes and how they can tax us after the business have been made to stay afloat until we are through with this crisis. The big question is, are we where we are because of the taxes or are we where we are because of what is happening? 2 months down the line, you guys know that we were buying fuel sometimes even less. Some petrol stations would write 5 shillings discount, 6 shillings discount. So between 2 months ago and today, there's nothing that the government has added in terms of tax. Because let's be fair where fairness needs to be. There's nothing they have added.
Yeah.
What has happened is actually that push. Now, are we out of the woods? No. In the next 3 months, things are even going to exacerbate. And so, it is the reason why the development levy, they have used 6-point-something billion, about 6.6 billion out of the 17 billion. Why? Because they would have used the 17 billion today so that the prices remain where they were. But next month, because the way we price our oil is between 10th of last month and 9th of this month. The vessels that are coming in between now, we do a weighted average. So what will happen is that then there would be an exponential hike and we'll have nothing now to moderate it. And so if diesel goes up with 120 shillings, you'll have to show the 120 shilling.
Chongo,
And so
what are you saying?
Yeah.
Are you saying that
Brace
tukubali yaishe?
what I am saying, and I want to bring you to where we are as I bring it home. We are in where we are today because some regimes before this regime and President Uhuru's regime, and that is Mwai Kibaki's regime, slept on the job. The reason why today we have, you see today, Latif, there's nobody who blames the government for the prices of potato. Neither does anybody blame the government for the prices of sukuma wiki. Reason being, the government does not announce the prices of sukuma wiki because the market forces are at play. So when we deliberately killed National Oil Corporation, that is where we started going wrong. Because if you look at any developed economy, they have a behemoth of a state corporation that controls oil, because this is a national security issue. And the laws that we have in Kenya dictate that 30% of all imported oil ought to be imported by National Oil, so that National Oil would bring a lot of petroleum in this country and lower the prices, force other companies to lower the prices. That is the biggest reason why the oil in Uganda is cheaper than what is in Kenya. Because the competition, they outcompete each other. Their tax component is also small, but also the companies there, because the government does not cap, they outcompete each other, and people now start get the benefit of what is accrued by a capitalist system.
But Chamba, the death of the killing of the national oil adapts the same language that you talk about. The technocrats in government then looked at it and said, we are spending so much money on this thing, it does not make business sense. So let us allow the Kenyan economy to deal with.
Why haven't we killed Kenya Airways?
No. This is with the same argument.
You see,
with the national oil,
yeah.
you're hinging your argument by saying our problem starts with the killing of national oil.
Yes.
The technocrats then, I remember in that period, went through this whole exercise and said, national oil is losing the country a lot of money. Okay? So let's allow the Kenyan economy to deal with the market forces.
But we did not do that. If we allowed it to deal with the market forces, then we would not cap the prices. We would allow, because you see now, we have a mongrel of a system where at the place of sourcing the fuel, it's capitalism. At the place of selling, it's a commodity economy. In between there, we kill the whole system. We need to be either capitalist or a command economy all through. So in my view, any technocrat who says that national oil cannot work is wearing the wrong cap. He should not be a technocrat, because it is happening elsewhere. Where we are buying this fuel from, Saudi Aramco, ADNOC, they are all state corporations, big state corporations. Why would ours not work? The problem is there will, is there political will, goodwill to make national oil work? Why is it today national oil is functioning at the upstream level and is not functioning at the downstream level? So we have, because we cannot run away from the fact that petroleum is a national security issue, and it is the blood that runs the economy, the body that we call the economy. And the gaps there, because that's why we appreciate that EPRA has to be there to make sure that there is fuel. But you see, while licensing, EPRA is the government and can mandate and can make these companies maintain a certain level of stocks in this country, so that they don't wake up one morning and we don't have stocks. Once they have brought that stock in this country, let them outcompete each other so that we can gain some benefits of, because what happens, let me tell you smart. Today, somebody, when the prices were going down, the reason why Kenyans did not understand why you would find a company giving a discount of 6 shillings, 7 shillings, is because they look, like I say, the market's realities out there. They see the cargo that is coming will be probably 20 shillings cheaper. So if I stay with whatever I have, I'll lose 20 shillings. I would rather give a discount of 10 bob and recover in the next cargo than lose the whole 20 bob. So those market dynamics are what accrues benefits to the public.
Okay.
All right.
When you're not lazy, that's how you think. But now that you're lazy, we are in this place of control.
So what you're saying is that discount can actually even be 20 bob. It has never been more than 5. Let's take a break. Let's take a break and come back shortly. We are on the last word, and tonight we are looking at the fuel prices, and we are asking ourselves, that 8% drop of VAT, was it sufficient? Has it offered relief to everybody in the country? We'll be back shortly to continue that conversation. We are back on air.
Welcome back. We were having a very
Quite
petroleum conversation.
interesting.
We'll have the break, but welcome back. You're watching The Last Word. As we left on the break, before we come to you, gentlemen, I want to finish with Chomba here. And we've diagnosed where the problem is and the question of the solution of the policy. So is it your considered opinion that unless and until we reverse this idea that, as you say, get from the port, from whatever it is capitalism or it's government, and you have a government on this side, and stop this government to government, or goon to government, as they like to call it, unless we reinstate something like a national oil, we have no chance. Essentially, we're wasting time with all these policy tricks. Is that your statement?
My opinion is, I said, people who think in a complex manner would go for what I was talking about, developing our own state corporation that would go beyond what we are doing now. Because what we are doing now, it has been precipitated by the lazy people that were there then. So today, now that we are where we are, because that now would be in the long term. In the short term, what do? What we must look at ways of going against now where we find ourselves. One, Kenya must diversify our sources of petroleum.
Yeah.
Why? Because Strait of Hormuz controls 20% of the world total oil passage in the world. Meaning, again, complex thinking. 80%
It's still very much.
is still much available.
Yes.
So we can get it from Angola, we can get it from Nigeria, Libya, Venezuela. It's all over the place, including US. So that has to be done. The next thing that must be done is the Petroleum Act of 2019 envisaged that the government of Kenya should operationalize strategic oil reserves. That has to happen so that we can run for about 90 days or so. That is the envisaged time, for about 90 days, about 3 months. Because today, we are acting like a hydraulic. Any push from there is getting to the calipers, the wheels of the common economy. And that is very dangerous. Because should something happen in between here and Indian Ocean and where we are getting our fuel, our economy can stop. Today I've just heard that the Houthis in the southern Yemen have declared that they are going to fight inside of Iran. And if they make that place unpassable, then we get ourselves to that. People ask, how can we do that and we don't have money? I ask, how are we building roads today and we don't have money? We just need to incentivize these companies, give them free land in Mombasa, let them come and build those strategic reserves here, and give them the leeway to sell back to other countries within the East African region. And when they are trading and they have their product here, then we are the first. It is the reason why our forefathers would give a piece of land so that they can be built a police station there. They knew with the police station, you don't need to employ the guards at night, the soldier. It's the reason why your mother, your father would give land for church to be built in their home. Because they know if these guys are praying here, we are most likely safe. It is the same reason that we must give. Okay?
Most likely going to heaven.
Yeah, we must, because that is how they are socialized. Okay? That we must give land in Mombasa, a special economic zone, and give these people who have the capital, incentivize them, even if it's tax cuts and all that kind of thing that we do, knowing that just as we said policemen are paid today, but the government takes, it's a cost to pay a policeman for security. We must pay a cost to provide regular, available, and cheap petrol in this country.
Right, Pastor microphone, yes, and you can speak now. Yes.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is George Njoroge Wangigi. I'm an urban farmer, investigator, and a researcher. Tonight, this is not just about fuel prices.
Could you put the microphone just here?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Today is not just about fuel prices. It's about whether ordinary Kenyan can afford to move, work, and live. Because right now, fuel is no longer just a commodity. It is a tax on a survival. Global oil prices are unstable. Yes, but what Kenyans are questioning is what's happening inside our own system. While you skip a meal to fund your commute, a hidden margin of about 17 shillings per litre is quickly leaking into a pocket of a well-connected individuals. The G2G was promised as a shield for the shilling instead, but it has become a straw of airlights. Think about this. When oil prices drop across the world, all Kenyan we hear is silence. But when they rise, the echo shake every pocket. The Turkana question. Let's talk about Turkana. We were told oil will transform lives. Promised Turkana would be our Dubai. Years later, the benefits still feel distant. Now we are transitioning from Talu to Gulf energy. The transition is critical because this is the moment Kenya must answer one question. Are we building a national asset or just changing the brand of the person exploiting us? We haven't even touched the environmental depth of the project. The Lokichar, the water is contaminated. The livestock are dying.
Yeah.
The locals got the smoke. The billionaire got the steak. Today, in 2026, we are pushing for commercial production without full environmental audit. We are flying blind into a disaster. From compliance to control. One of the biggest problems is that Kenya operates like a buyer, not an owner. It behaves like a customer in a market where it should be a player. We import refined fuel, we depend on external supply chain, we absorb every global shock. Meanwhile, countries like Nigeria invested in refinery capacity, like the Dagota refinery, to take control of their value chain. That is the difference. They capture value, we absorb shock. We need to stop acting like a helpless customer and start acting like a landlord. We need to break the concentration in the supply chain and make it more competitive. Right now, many Kenyans believe a small group of privileged farms that have choked hold on the G2G pipeline. Whether the perception is fully accurate or not, the signal trust deficit we need, it is a signal trust deficit. We need more participation, transparent allocation, open competition. If possible, we should empower 100 local independent marketeers to pull their billions and bid directly from consumer to owner. I don't understand why we are tracking raw crude to Mombasa to ship it away, only to buy it back refined. We need a modular refinery in Turkana now, not yesterday.
Okay.
We should be burning our own diesel, not importing our own resources at a premium. Even small-scale modular refined can reduce import dependency, stabilize our local supply, create job in the value chain, let citizens benefit directly. If oil is a national resource, citizen must feel it. We need models where Kenyan can invest in energy assets, return it visible and structured. Benefits go beyond taxes because ownership changes perception and perception shapes stability. For example, I can take advantage of a citizen equity through oil bonds. Let Mama Mboga and the Boda Boda rider buy into a sovereign wealth fund. If the oil belongs to us, the dividends should too. And when the government decides to waive VAT for farms like Gulf Energy, we won't share in return. You don't get tax holiday on a taxpayer's back for free. Killing the Tumbo economy. The biggest barrier to 150 shilling fuel isn't a dollar.
George, pause there. Then we can come back to you for the solution here of killing the Tumbo economy. Let's hear from others. Then we come back from the urban farmer.
Yes,
and hear from the urban farmer.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Lorraine Maganga. I'm a petroleum and gas engineer from Kenyatta University. Just completed my 5-year course, awaiting graduation. And currently I'm serving as the Premier Coordinator for the Fuel Retail Trust Index and the Petrobrand Station Awards, which is the first customer-led benchmark for fuel excellence in the retail, rather downstream sector. Yeah, so for today, I'm of the opinion of not really, the subsidy is not really doing much injustice to Kenyans. Because when you look at it, we trade in barrels, yeah, in capacity, and in currency, we trade in dollars. So the currency of a barrel actually rose from $70 to $115. But is the math really, is it adding up? No, because when you actually translate this $45 increase to Kenyan shillings, like say 30 to 40 Kenyan shillings, and what the Kenyan government is giving us is an 80% subsidy from the VAT, which is now 9 to 10 shillings, yeah? So when you actually equate the 30 to 40 shillings, the 9 to 10 shillings, it's not really adding up for us. And I think something we need to address the government is more of a call to action to them, is they need to address these things early in advance for the citizen. Because why are the citizens earlier this morning going to the streets and rioting and demonstrating? Why are they actually waiting for it to get to this point before they actually address the citizens? Because there's need for transparency and telling the citizens what actually is going on. And I think something we're not really mentioning, or actually we are missing to mention, is this 8% VAT is actually supposed to last for how long? 90 days. So it's not really something, it's not more of a long-term solution, it's just a band-aid. So this is a question, what is going to happen once these 3 months elapse and the war is still ongoing? Something else is, amid this crisis and the VAT reduction, so the government admits to seeking the rapid financing from World Bank. That is more or less a loan, yeah, from the World Bank. So let me ask this straight. We are borrowing for us to receive a subsidy in fuel. So is that really something we are up to? Is this really a subsidy because we are borrowing so that we get to be subsidized? So yeah, so there's a lot of transparency that's needed. I think there's a lot of light that needs to be shed when it comes to the petroleum industry. I think something really funny is someone would be asking, you're studying petroleum engineering, what are you doing to go and be a pump attendant? It's so crazy. So there's a lot, because people really don't understand. Sorry?
How would you answer that question?
Okay, I would say the petroleum industry is quite broad. In as much as right now as the country is not really positioned to actually produce oil, though we're on the cost of that, because I think according to the FDP that is the field development plan that was passed by the parliament, we expected to have our first oil by 1st December if everything that was planned goes on track. So that is on the upstream. So petroleum industry is, let's say, if I was to just make sure that it's simple, I would divide it in 3 sectors. That is upstream, which is where we explore and where we get to find the oil and explore it. Yeah, and then we have the midstream, where it's more of transportation, a bit of storage, and a bit of refinery sometimes on site. And then we have the downstream, where we have the oil marketing companies, now the Shell that the Ola and all that. So when you're doing petroleum engineering, you're not just, because people would assume you're just it's more of drilling. And since we're not doing drilling, we're not an active petroleum producing country, what will you be doing? So of course we have the midstream people who are say working in the midstream sector, ensuring the pipelines are okay, everything is going on track. And even for the oil that is coming in, the oil that we're importing, we need quality assurance people to make sure, like we had the scandal that there was some work oil that was imported in the country. These are people from the petroleum industry that actually realize that this oil is not compliant to what we're supposed to receive. So it's quite a big industry, and even though we're not really an oil producing country, we have a lot of markets to work in.
There's space for
There's
petroleum
space for everyone,
and gas engineers. In Kenya.
It's good
I
information.
have a question too, actually, and in the same course, looking at strategically moving Kenya into amplified security when it comes to petroleum, I'd want to speak your mind on what does a national energy strategy look like? Like, what is a long-term solution for this crisis we're in at the moment? What seems to work? The opportunities are there, as you said, but it's like, why is this a concurrent problem? What needs to be done?
Yeah, I would first want to agree to your point, because since we're not an oil-producing country, we're more of price receiver, We're not a price maker. So we are more susceptible, and this is something that is meant to occur, because, it's not something new. It happened in 2022 when we had the Ukrainian-Russia war, and now we have this Iran-USA war that is bringing all the global oil shocks, and we cannot really predict when this is going to happen next. Probably it will be another one, maybe by the end of the year. And even as it is right now, we don't know how long this US-Iran war is going to take, or how long it's going to span. So it's quite of an unpredictable session. So what would I say looks like a national, to just guard us from this dilemma we are in? I think first of all is to have a country map where we are using our own oil. Because I think now that we're starting, and hopefully we are going to produce our first oil by December, have structures in place. Because now, for instance, we don't really have a refinery. The refinery that was there before, it was shut down because it's not even actually it can't even meet the standards of the oil we have. The oil that we have is highly paraffinic, unlike the oil that we used to import, meaning it's really waxy at room temperature, let's say 25 degrees Celsius. So it can't really be transported in pipelines because it's waxy. It's like candle-like, So it needs a lot of infrastructure. It needs heated pipelines. So if the country can actually invest in such infrastructure, because what we're looking at is importing, producing our oil and exporting, because I think majorly that's what the plan is doing at the moment, because we're actually looking forward to it being produced by 1st December and it goes out. And then what happens, we import our own oil that we actually produce at a same, more or less higher price and slightly, maybe lower, but still it's slightly higher, yeah? So the country should invest in its own infrastructure, say building the refinery, the pipelines, so that when even this oil is produced, we get to utilize our own resources. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Joseph Kingori. I'm from the Jubilee Youth League, the Secretary General within the team. I'm also a community member of Ruiru constituency, a place where we have hundreds of factories. The increase by 40 shillings in diesel is causing, it has a direct effect on the people, because currently we are seeing factories are no longer hiring the day-to-day jobs, because these 40 shillings, they need to know where it's coming from and how they're going to subsidize their own factories and their own things. Number two, the cost of products. The cost of product, because this 40 shillings has to balance from somewhere. So we're going to see consumer goods going high, the price of consumer goods going high. So that's one of the, to answer the initial question that we asked when we were starting, has it had an effect? And I say it has had a negative effect, because now youth are no longer having jobs. And number two, in the near future, we will be seeing the price of unga going up. We've already seen the price of eggs is already high. Yeah, as a bachelor, I have to. Yeah, so we're going to see more things, more prices of things going high. Number two, I'm not an oil expert, but I'm a political player. I can't remember in the late at the end of 2021 is when we had the Ukraine war. During that time, the global politics dictated that that the West, the European countries, the NATO-aligned countries should not buy oil from Russia. That was during winter. That caused the demand for the Gulf oil in Europe to go high. And therefore the price of the barrel, for one barrel, went up. At that particular time, the barrel was going for $139. We are also importing from the same place where winter Europe was importing from. And we paid at the pump for a liter 139 shillings. Currently, the cost of barrel is at $90. But at the pump here in Kenya, we're buying at 197. I want to call to question the landing price of oil in Kenya, because there's something amiss there.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah.
Thank you. I'm George. I'm a construction engineer. And this is my take. Initially, the mind that raised the VAT to 16% was anticipating an extra 50 billion in revenue collection, right? So what's this that's happening? What is this that will happen? I'm answering the question whether this is working for Kenyan or not. What is this that will happen to go and fill back the loop that the 50 billion has left? Because at the end of the day, the ledger must balance. So as Kenyans who have been deluded to believe that they have been relieved, they should ask themselves for posterity. They should have that posterity mindset to think about it. Because at the end of the day, these are the two most things to happen, the two most probable things to happen. Number one, either the government will give up on its expenditure, it will not pay teachers, it will not pay for help, it will not do all those stuff. Number two, which is the most conceivable one, it will go for loans, which has been the talk of the day of trying to avoid, and we're already hitting at 12.1 trillion. So most probably, maybe this government, the government that claimed that it will never raise the national debt, will go in record as the government that raised the national debt than any other government. See? Secondly, this is the thing. The government is the main player in importing oil. It is the main player. And then the government, the government with all its experts, including the ODM experts, cannot predict upon the beginning of Iran-US war and whatsoever, that most probably the prices will hike and therefore caution Mwananchi as early as possible. Now all of a sudden they act messianic and try to make us think that now they are helping us get us out of mud. We are not that mad. Unless you are. See? Yeah, so the government with its professionalism, with its everything, is supposed to have foreseen this stuff and prevented us from reaching at that end. That's my take.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We are not mad.
Not that mad.
Not that mad. Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Warren Charles. I'm an aspiring petroleum engineers, and also the Vice President of Society of Petroleum Engineers, KU chapter. That's Kenyatta University. I'm also a young CEO or a business owner by the name 4WS Enterprise. So we started about the question 8% as it cost relief on Kenyans. So first of all, the VAT is just one of the taxes that are being put on the fuel. There are 9 other taxes that's supposed to be added on this fuel, right? As he said in the beginning. So I felt like if these 9 taxes can be removed from fuel and placed on different commodities. For example, the fuel that we get, we use it for production, right? So what if we change the taxes rather to the products instead of the production process? Because when you take this fuel to the industry for manufacturing, as my brother have said in his place, they have a lot of factories. And this fuel is used for processing. And what if we add the taxes on the products that you have already produced during the processing? It will be much better, and I feel like
who's buying those products?
For example, in terms of unga, in the milling factories, right? So the unga will be there, right? and we can input these taxes instead of putting them on the fuels. We transfer them from fuels to the products that
So
you're
we
going
increase
to
the price of unga.
somehow, but there will be food security in the country because right now,
No, just
right now, getting a ferry, a ship that carries oil from the Middle East, it takes like it moves at 20 kilometers per hour. That's the speed of a bicycle, right? Yeah. So do that maths, then see how many days will it take for us to
We
receive.
need more roads.
Yeah. will it take to receive another ship at the port? It will take a lot of time. And mark you, if we are in a position to produce more of these ungas, we'll be having that food security in the country. So at least, even if the ship will take more time for us to get another oil from the Middle East or where.
We can eat ugali, right?
Yeah, we can eat ugali.
I love the reasoning. We are balancing. Eat ugali, yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dennis Omondi from the Cooperative University, Karen, pursuing accounting and finance. I was strongly disagreeing that there is no benefit from decrement from 16% to 8%. So according to my suggestion, I think the government should put away with some levies, such like they should reduce the percentage for the road maintenance levy and the railway maintenance levy, because let me give an example of ZH Republic, where we find that they have majorly dealt with pipeline transportation for oil. So they have capped away the transportation cost. So my question is to the government, why are we imposing a tax levy on road and transport, and yet we have not seen that major transport sector which has been improvised? Day and day we have heard a lot about tanks being exploded in Mandera roads, this other road. Number two, this SGR. I think the government should just reduce with percentage. Let me say it to road, they should reduce it to be 2%, railway 2%, and majorly we focus on pipeline only. So we should keep away these two levies. At least it will help.
Hello, good evening. My name is Moremi Kogi. I am a tax consultant. I'm also an artist, musician, and also an actor. I'm also a student at the Technical University of Kenya pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Pure and Applied Mathematics. And
also?
and also I'm an activist. I was actually in town today. I was part of the Maandamano. So first and foremost, I have heard very many people saying, the experts are speaking and saying the government should do this, the government should do this. First and foremost, the government should do a lot of things. And believing that the current government has any political goodwill is as close to madness as you can get. Honestly, you have seen what the government has been doing since they came into power. Has any of those things shown you that this government cares about the people? You will answer that for yourselves. Now, aside from that, there are several things that they have decided. They are increasing 40 shillings and reducing by 10, right? That is actually part of a set book that I performed. No, it's not Betrayal, it's Kigogo. Yes, I performed it. I performed that book. I'm an actor. I performed it. And they have done exactly that, what we did.
Literally.
They increased it by 40 and reduced it by 10. In that book, they call it mchezo wa kutoa kuongeza. That is what they call it in the book. Now, they are doing these things. They are trying to look like they are doing something, but they are actually not. There is no goodwill from the government, because if they actually wanted to cushion the Kenyans, one of the things they would have done is reduce their expenditure, their own expenditure. Because tell me why. You have a house, right? Do you paint it every year? Because you renovate it every year just because you have billions of shillings. You eat mandazi every day for 14 million just because you can. You fly a helicopter around the country. You have a bill of 150 something million because you can. And when you're going to launch a tap that is dry, is going to be dry next week, you're going there with a motorcade of almost 13 vehicles that consume this the petrol that we don't have. And in fact, you're not paying for that petrol. It is the taxpayer who is paying for that petrol that you are wasting. So these people are not trying to cushion us with, do not think that the reduction by 8% is okay. And when they say that most of the levies are controlled by the loans and whatnot, there is something that I heard about, I'm not sure the United States cares about this a lot, but there is sovereignty in every state, in every nation. So that means that there are decisions that can be made by the nation for the nation's interest that can go against anybody else. So that means that even though we are bound by a contract, we are going through a crisis. Now tell me, niko na deni ya mtu wa PlayStation, niko na deni yake ya 200, na niko na 200. So will I pay that debt ama nitaenda nitafute pesa nikule? I will channel the amount of money that I needed to do a certain action to something that is more of a priority. Right now we do not have petroleum, it's true, right? But what are they doing to mitigate it? They're not actually doing anything. We cannot say that the war of Iran and the United States is going to end tomorrow. No. Maybe it's going to last for a year. So are we going to continue borrowing, putting money into people's pockets? Because that is what they are doing. If they take that loan, the chances of us actually feeling the effect of that loan are as close to zero as zero, in fact.
So they should cut their expenditures.
Yes, the expenditure is actually, they are very, very extravagant, too extravagant. In fact, we were as an activist, we were chanting about how Tanzania, they are running their business. But I saw that in the recent crisis, the president has said that she has reduced the number of vehicles in her motorcade. That is something that our own member of parliament cannot do. I must move around with 10 vehicles. You have to know I am coming.
Thank you, Mr. Taxman.
Yes.
Tax consultant. It's correct.
Okay. Can I get people who have not spoken first before I come back? Okay, to give this gentleman the microphone, he's not spoken, and the lady. Then I come to the guys who have spoken here and there. Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Calvin Juma Obanya, a student leader at Kenyatta University, pursuing bachelor's degree in medicine and surgery.
How do you find yourself in this conversation?
As a Kenyan,
the petroleum you need to inject people.
as a Kenyan and a citizen who is affected, who is also a consumer of the fuel in terms of public transport and also private means. So what I can say is that we have a government that is reactive rather than proactive. And every time they face a crisis, they want to do something so that they can get a perception of working rather than actually working. Because the focus should be on having means that are very sustainable. And most of my colleagues here have mentioned that unless we focus on our own oil, the one that we are mining, and then get to have our own refineries, there is no solution. It is not only the energy sector that is affected by this reactive government, but these are things that have happened. Personally, I've been privileged to be in a committee under this government, the new funding model committee that was being to reform the model. And as a student leader and as a comrade, we gave a lot of reforms, things that we knew that the government could actually implement. But up to now, we still have students that are going to call off because of things that the government could have done, and that they're very basic. So what I can say tonight is that there is one thing that is clear. This government is about the image, and even about the VAT and everything. It is all about the image. And I hope that Mr. President, His Excellency William Ruto, we will be privileged enough to actually see this discussion and start focusing on sustainability and being proactive. Thank you so much.
All right.
The
doctor has spoken.
Yeah.
Just what the doctor ordered.
Please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Prudence Esnas. I'm a first-year law student at the Jomo Kenyatta University. And in answering the question that was asked, has the reduction really brought a relief to the citizens? And as a student who commutes every day to school, I'll say that this reduction has not really brought relief. In as much as the amendment bill mandates that the mandates that the fuel providers must reduce it to must reduce the fuel price, it has not really been taken into account. We see that in as much as they're saying they're supposed to reduce the fuel price, they really lack the enforcement mechanism that will mandate the fuel providers, the retailers, and the manufacturers to reduce the fuel. And the question that we ask ourselves is, the law itself has failed in its objective to reduce the fuel price. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I'm Tom Juma, TJ Owino. I'm a mechanical engineer and I'm also a politician. I was a candidate in the last election and I will be a candidate again in 2027.
Make sure you fix this problem when
Yeah.
you get there.
So these are my suggestions. Mine is centrally to say that we have to introduce National Oil Corporation back as a way of solving this problem for future, any possible future occurrence. And the kind of National Oil Corporation that I'm talking about should have 3 mandates. One, at the start, it should buy oil and sell it to customers to consumers at a subsidized cost to bring in competition so that we don't just consume fuel that is provided by private partners. And then the second goal that I'm giving this National Oil Corporation is to ensure that maybe by the end of the 3rd year, we have oil reserves in the country so that we can buy and keep them and at one particular point sell them even to other consumers. And then the third goal, which is the final, is that the National Oil Corporation that I'm proposing should have an operating modern refinery so that at least we can buy crude, refine, and sell even to other countries to make more money. We can use the Turkana oil in crude form, refine it, and sell it to generate money. The context under which national oil was removed last time is because the government spends a lot of money on running the corporation. But I would argue that at some particular point, the government has to spend money on something at a cost to cushion the consumers, which is the citizen. So having a national oil corporation with these 3 mandates will solve future fuel prices problem in the country. However, I have one problem with my country, Kenya.
Only one?
Yeah, only one problem.
Okay.
With my country, Kenya. We have become so subservient to the problems that we face, such that they become a topic of discussion, and after some time, another problem comes in, we discuss, and then we forget the one that happened last time. I remember the last word I attended here, we were talking about flooding in Kenya. And of all the points that were shortlisted here, I gave out very, very tangible and concrete solutions.
As an engineer.
You've not seen them worked on.
Yeah, but we have not seen them worked on. We have forgotten the flooding effect. Yeah, now we are in the oil crisis. And maybe in the next 2 months, it will be something else.
It will be the sun crisis.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I call upon comrades, next time we go to ballot, let us elect leaders whose integrity cannot be questioned. Let us vote leaders who have wisdom and vision for the country. Let us not vote based on tribal affiliation and the rest. Thank you very much.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Once again, I'm Mary J. Kitetu. Of the idea that the 8% still reduces provides some relief to the Kenyans for some time, because I find it so amusing that we tend to look at what should have been done instead of what has been done. When we look at the statistics right now, it is better that we have the 8% reduced and focus and come and picture the long-term goal of what can we do next, rather than fixing our minds on that we have reduced the 8%, nothing is being done yet, other than just focusing on we should not have reduced this 8%. We should be focusing on what are we going to do after the 8% reduction. That is where now we call the government to action on terms of the refinery. While the crude oil being produced at Turkana is about 20,000 BPD, and our daily consumption rate is about 120,000, while we can produce a refinery focusing on not the production cost, not the everything that will take to build that refinery, but rather the long-term effect of this refinery, of the now importation, of now the surviving, to look on the future cost of living of the normal Mwananchi, because raising, while we are looking at Singapore as our goal right now, we are so far from Singapore in terms of one oil crisis can affect our whole economy, while Singapore, it cannot even be compared. Like,
it has a plan.
It has a plan that the energy they're not relying on is the energy they're relying on is not only the energy from the Strait of Hormuz, but they have the backup that in case this happens, we will immediately switch up to this, like a backup generator that operates immediately. This one is cut short. That is what we should be thinking long term of. Yes, we have an energy crisis that is out of our control, that the landing cost will be high, but what can we do as a country? How better can we manage any future crisis of the same?
Okay. Who hasn't spoken?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not good to air out accusations and just leave it there. You have to at least air some solutions. It's good. So as a country, I'd say one of the ways, even if it's not the best, one of the ways we can use to solve the crisis that we have now, we are very rich in renewable energy resources. Our geothermal sources, energy sources, are among the most abundant in the entire globe. We can use power and generate power from such resources, and not for other industries. My apologies, I'm thinking a lot. Other industries that they do not necessarily need to draw power from petroleum. For example, imagine like Nairobi City, where we have cable cars, subways that generate power from renewable energy sources like geothermal. Sorry to say, I tried to address these issues with the regulatory authority, April last year, but so I think it's one of the issues we can use. We are very rich in renewable energy sources. There are some sectors of our economy that do not necessarily need to draw their power or energy from petroleum sources. Yes.
Okay, hand in the microphone.
Thank you very much. My name is Eugene Okello. I'm a petroleum engineering student at Kenyatta University and also a pricing politician as well. I think even as we focus on the solutions, I think as a country we just lack the political goodwill. We saw the other day the president just on top of a vehicle said the VAT to reduce from this percent to this percent. And the following day, Parliament acted in just one day and passed the law in reduction of the percentage, right? So I think we just lack that political goodwill, right? Some time back we saw just the president in one day said students who have not joined high school because they lack uniform should go tomorrow in school in their primary school uniform, and that happened, right? So I think the same president as well can just using his own mind, the same way he can just pronounce himself, anything that is of good interest to this country, right? Just stand the same way on top of a vehicle and reduce the levies that are unnecessary. We understand that the country needs to run as well, right? But again, as my colleagues have said, they are necessary expenditure. They are just for nothing, right? Of course, trying to see how there can be a balance between the petroleum sector and also the renewable energy sector, right? So I think we just lack that political goodwill all the way from the president down to our MPs. And I think it's now a clarion call for us as young people and the entire country to wipe all this poll away in 2027. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Hi, my name is Maya Tumaini. Currently waiting to join. Globally.
To join the industry?
Globally, an oil energy crisis could disrupt economics, increase cost, and accelerate the shift to renewable resources. Economic impact: higher fuel prices, increased cost of transport, goods and services, might slow growth, trigger inflation, or shift investments to renewables. Environmental effects: reduced oil demand, lower emissions if replaced by renewables. A quick wrap up: oil energy crisis drive economics and social changes. Impact: higher costs, disrupt industries and environmental shifts. Solution: diversify energy, boost efficiency and innovations. Thank you.
Well done. You've joined.
Welcome. Yes, and then yes.
Yes. So I think we do not understand the magnitude of the crisis we are in.
Oh my.
How so?
Warren pointed out that, number one, an oil tanker moves at 20 kilometers per hour. The last tanker that left the Strait of Hormuz on February 28th would get to Kenya about 2 to 3 weeks or 4 weeks down the line. So the tanker that you would expect to get here in the next few weeks that we are facing, because there is a war, and as you have said, there is a lot happening. And there have been crises in the past. Let's not only look at 2022, let's look at 1973. It faced us in Kenya when the late Mwai Kibaki was finance minister. And prices went up, but the only saving grace we had as a nation is that we had a balance of trade. Our horticultural exports were able to cover the forex and cushion us. That was one of the strategies we had as a nation. We have lost such cards. That's number one. Number two, what Seth has said, let's not look at petroleum just as petroleum. Let's look at it at the context of energy, because our energy security is our sovereignty. So in Kenya, we are endowed. We have geothermal. We have 80% of our energy is renewable, which is something quite rare. We are quite advanced. Other countries use natural gas for powering their power plants. They are really affected by this thing. We have a different mindset. So how do we mitigate this? You asked a question, what is a national petroleum strategy to look at? I think I'll pick some of the points. One of the points is refining. But before I say why refining is important, we have to look at the past. Where did KPRL, where did the idea come from? The idea was not ours. The idea was for Shell and BP. In 1961, they set up the refinery. When we got independence, it became the East Africa Refinery. We moved all the way to 1971. The government got a 50% stake. Once we got that stake, we developed it a bit. But then as we moved on, we did not look at the infrastructure. We did not understand that this is a resource that we have that protects us. It protects our economy. Why does it protect our economy? Energy is a factor of production. If energy goes down, there was a time in 2022 where we had sort of a fuel crisis. There was some hoarding, what was happening. We felt it. You remember lining up at the pump. Things was at standstill. Energy is the pulse of the nation. And we do not take our energy seriously enough. So when we moved to 1994, the refinery, the laws changed in Kenya. They opened up, democratized the oil, how oil is sourced in Kenya, and this allowed other players to bring in oil. But the refinery was not competing. They were not moving up. So the oil majors, who are mandated by law to get 40% of their oil from the refinery, were like, guys, we cannot buy substandard oil. Number one is substandard. Number two, it's more expensive than what I'm importing. Then we got to all the way to 2009, where we sold to SI Energy. They came in, they said they need 450 billion to revamp it. Then they go to a point, oh, we need 1.4 billion. Then in 2013, just guys said, let's just close this thing. When we closed that thing, we lost thousands of jobs. Crude oil does not only produce diesel, kerosene, and petrol. It also produces pharmaceuticals or other petroleum byproducts, which are used for pharmaceuticals, used in the paint industry, used in various industries. And those industries rise up around a refinery. They are supporting industries, what we call indirect industries. And these industries basically died, or even the ones that were to come from us, the Gen Z, they died. We lost jobs, we lost industry. We cannot move forward as a country if we kill all the factors of production. So we need a refinery to give us energy stability and energy security. The why a refinery would reduce the cost of oil, when we pay the landed cost, there's something called a refiner's margin. The refinery is a business. Those guys have to earn. If that refiner's margin stays in Kenya, that money circulates in our economy. We move forward. We're able to even have a vibrant economy. Final thing, as we look to the future, we've talked about energy. One of the biggest uses of oil in Kenya is for transport. Currently, only 0.03% of our electricity is used in e-mobility. We still have huge potential for electricity in our country, for electricity generation. Currently at around 2,500 megawatts. We can move to 10,000 megawatts. We can fuel our economy. And this also means we can move some of the things that really rely on oil away from oil. And this would really cushion us from such shocks. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. Very well said. Final, let's hear from him. He hasn't spoken. Just pass the mic behind him there.
So, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, my name is Boniface Githaka, a former student of Mount Kenya University and currently freelance in mobile mixology. I pursued public administration and governance, and today I'm here to oppose, or rather to disagree with the 8% reduction. Has done nothing really, because of, if you look at it, on paper it looks good, but then again practically it's just like a drop of water in the ocean, because Eric asked what or who sponsored the Mandamanos today, and I would rather answer that by saying it's actually the fuel prices that are fueling the anger within people. So, because if you look at it, I find so many posters along highways written on them that the fuel levy is used to maintain the roads. But then again, you're better off walking on the pavement rather than the actual road, because, I mean, the roads are in terrible and poor conditions. And as a student of public administration, there's something called public policy, whereby entails formulating and implementing and executing policies. So I think what the government is doing lately is they have so many misaligned priorities to an extent of, even the policies they come up with end up tightening the grip rather than loosening. So, for instance, like with the high cost of fuel right now, this doubles up the cost of, like take, for example, a Mama Mboga who uses maybe a boda to get their products to the market. So you find that the high cost of fuel has doubled up the margins, or maybe to an extent of even whatever profit he or she was going to make, unakuta zimechukuliwa ama zimepotelea tu, zimenyonywa tu huko. So I think we need to understand that the opposition's main, one of the main roles by the opposition is to oversee what the government is doing. So, of course, they're going to speak out on behalf of the people. And because, I mean, these fuel prices are rather widening the gap between the rich and the poor of this nation. So I think this country doesn't really need high taxes or even levies. Just leaders who are transparent and
thanks.
Thank you. Allow me now to. We've discussed quite a bit what is the issue that we are currently dealing with, but I would wish to discuss now why we find ourselves where we find ourselves today. And the reason why we shall continue enjoying petroleum at the benevolence of the peace at the Strait of Hormuz is because, as I said, we think in a lopsided manner. I don't know why today we have a system that has discarded meritocracy in the way that we deal with our economy. One, there shall come a time in this nation or in this land that we shall probably do away with what you call the universal suffrage. I don't understand why a vote of an industrialist is equivalent to a vote of a guy who, analala kwa mtalo, somebody who is given 50 shillings and votes for a guy who does not understand the importance of taxes. So that is a discussion for another day. But my discussion here is, we say politics is the master science. It doesn't matter whether you're a petroleum engineer or a doctor or an aeronautical engineer, whatever it is that you do.
Or the guy on the Mtaro.
Yeah, ama jama wa Mtaro.
Yes,
you are all under the mercies of the laws and the policies made by the politicians. And now I want to invite you to look at why it is very important for you people to get into politics. Because it's until a time we achieve a critical mass of lawmakers in this country that we shall start to have a semblance of an economy that is moving forward. To look at it this way, any person in this country, for them to be allowed to be a lawyer, to interpret the law, they must go to, they must have a law degree and go to Kenya School of Law, isn't it? Yes. But then again, when it comes to making the laws, we have said you don't have to have a degree, isn't it? So tell me what kind of an arrangement that is. For you to make a law, you don't have to have a degree. But for you to interpret the law, you have to have a degree.
Isn't that the question of who makes laws?
No,
is it the man who makes laws or the law is made for man?
I would rather the other way around. I would rather that the guy who makes the law is more informed than the guy that interprets, because he'll make a law that is self-interpreting. So for me, we are not making the system. It's the same thing. Today, when you look at the industries that we are running, the place of political intrusion into the business is what brings inefficiency. We usually say that whenever you see a lot of government in the economy, you create a lot of inefficiencies. And so my call to action for government today is to try for the long term. I know we are in a mess today that we must get ourselves out of. But in the long run, we need to make sure that we find a way of pulling off the government, the direct government, from running the businesses that we are running. Otherwise, every time we run business with government, the political considerations will always take preeminence at the expense of the common good of the common people. And so the common people to enjoy maximum benefits from the markets, they must be free of political innuendos that happens. And you know they happens. And whenever you look at the life and the economy with the lenses of politics, you'll never get the real results. You always have that. We'll always enjoy fuel at the benevolence of Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, especially if it's Kenyan style of politics.
Yes.
We've got to conclude the show.
Absolutely. At some point. At some point, we have to finish the show. So here's the thing, that everyone has spoken, right? Unfortunately, we cannot continue until, right? Hang on, relax. This is, yes. I think I want to pick up from where Chamba leaves us. And I think it's a question of governance and how we want to be governed as a people. And part of the problem, I think, that we have is we have surrendered so much of our own, self, whatever you want to call it, to politicians. So there's no thinking that happens in individual Kenyans other than half of the time that you listen even in the news, it is talking points that is on the rallies. And that's very problematic, especially here from even younger people who've gone to school, who are in school, that all you can parrot is, oh, but you see the opposition has said this, but you see government has said this. And that tells you the level of problems we as a country, that if we, people of letters, have spent a lot of time, going to school and try to make ourselves better, we cannot come up with the original thoughts about how we want to govern ourselves, then it means that we're really bereft of ideas as a people and as a country. And I think that really boils down to where the problem is. And I think the frustration that we have, that why do we have then politicians, someone who essentially did not go to school, for whatever reason, make the laws and force you to have these laws, but because they have the power of the office. And we have to figure out how to get ourselves out of this quagmire, Latif.
I agree. I agree with a lot that's been said, and a lot of that has been said today. We are where we are, and we get to a point where we pick an issue. Now it's energy, and then we shall move away from it. We don't get into the depths of it. We don't interrogate deeper into it, into even questioning the policies and the decisions that are made. And the politician and those in leadership have actually gotten to understand us that much. So they know, mnapiga kelele saa hizi, itaisha, tutasonga. Okay, you'll get used to what we are saying. But this has got to change at some point. And just by having this conversation, so we say, let's have the last word. It's not the last word that it ended there. It's the last word on an issue, but we have to keep reviving and bringing it back. And so I think we need to conclude here by just picking up from what we've said. There's so many things that have been said tonight. Major of them all is the fuel prices are high, 8%, whereas it was a drop. It was not a drop.
It's not dropped enough.
Yeah, it was not a drop in a small area, surface area. It was a drop in the ocean, which really has not really counted too much. But what are the bigger and longer lasting solutions that we need to have? And that's what we need to think about. And thank you very much for watching The Last Word from Eric Latif, James Smart, and Zaha Indimuli, and our audience here of engineers, student engineers, economists, student economists.
And those who are joining.
Doctors, student doctors, lawyers, student lawyers.
Consumers, student consumers.
All of them are consumers and all are active citizens. Asanteni sana, have a good night.
Thank you. We survived.